can everybody hear me? I can't hear myself. Alright. Cereal, milk. Oh no, that's not my shopping list this time. Alright. This would be a lot easier if I knew all of you, but I know none of you. But the problem is, if I knew all of you, I would have to go through a lot of small talk and a lot of introductions. Oh, where you from? Oh, what do you do? What do you study? You know. And then you get all these stereotypical reactions, right? Like, oh, you're from this country, stereotype applied here. And what do you study this, right? So, yeah, if you study engineering, you get the, okay, so you're probably going to get a job one day, be proud of that. Oh, you do hard sciences, you're a smart fellow, that's great for you. Oh, you do humanities, you're going to have no job, that's great. I study psychology, so the usual thing I get is, oh, you're reading my mind right now. No, not. The other thing I get is, oh, you study psychology. I'm sorry. So what's your problem? It's interesting that people think that. Like, there's some grain of truth about that. Like, you know, back in history, it was adaptive. This negative thinking, I don't mean depression, I think like, if something goes wrong or if something fucks up, it's worthwhile to find out how it works. So, and therefore, an interest can evolve through that. So there's kind of, you know, the idea is kind of right. But it's interesting how people only apply to psychology. If you're a psychologist, something's wrong with you. But if you're a doctor, nobody says, oh, you're chronically ill then? Or if you're, you know, if you're an engineer, nobody goes like, so shit breaks in your house. Did your car break down last week? Or what's happened to you? Yeah, it's kind of odd. Well, I study human sexuality. I'm fine, thanks. No car broke down. Healthy and there's problems with just doing that. First of all, it's sexuality. Like, why would anyone question why I'm interested in that? Who's not interested in that? It's sex. Like, as soon as the word appears, everyone's what? Yeah, you know, I'm a psychologist, so I'm thinking of like having cognitive studies. You know, there's a lot of cognitive studies where you just press buttons to measure your brain function, whatever, and like have just a speaker say sex sometimes, just to keep the attention. You're sitting in the lab like, sex, right, let's do this, yeah, clicking the button, that's fun now. Yeah, but like eventually I'm going to become a sex doctor. Like, some of my male friends go, yeah, you're a sex doctor, it's so cool, man, you should get classes. And you know, if you think about it, it sounds cool, like you're walking around teaching people. There's this cool image which has nothing to do with reality whatsoever. And my old supervisor used to call herself sex doctor, right? It was funny, you know, we made jokes on it. But the thing is, she was a female, obviously. She could do that. She's a female scientist, so she's saving the world anyhow. Like, she's, you know, that's gender rights right there. And then the second thing is that people have a whole different perception of that. Because if you're a female scientist, people think, oh yeah, that's probably for the greater good. Like, yeah, we should do that. But if I call myself a sex doctor, as a young male bloke, different reaction there, right? Like, I have to take some time. If I get older, it'll be easier. If my beard's white and I'm like old and maybe fat, whatever, people will perceive me as asexual, and then it will be alright, right? Oh, he's interested in these things because he doesn't have anything. Of course I'll tell you all my secrets. You probably do it for the better good. Old people always do it for the better good, right? But right now, if I walk up to people like, so, tell me about your last sexual encounter. Yeah. Right, little boy? That can happen. That's a double standard, by the way. I feel discriminated. I want to, you know, it's a free country. I want to research sex without being discriminated for it. The other day I had a problem with my laptop, and it's my laptop, so I do what I want with it, right? Like, if I have a lot of research about right, that came out wrong. It's getting better, right? So, you know, if I have a lot of research about porn, or about threesomes, or about any sexual thing I research, I put it, like, I name it where I want. Like, the folder's gonna name porn. Like, it's my laptop, I do whatever I want. Like, threesomes, sexuality, female orgasm, these kind of things. But, I mean, for people it might look odd. I just had a problem with my laptop. I walked up to the service desk. Of course a woman was there. Of course it was a young girl, actually. Probably like younger than I am, and I showed her, so I have this problem with my laptop here, maybe you can check it out. And some point I just realized, like, oh, this looks, she shouldn't see these things. this gives a wrong impression. And I try to say to myself, like, this is research on phylogeny of female sexuality. That's like, you know, anthropology. She just ignored what I said. She just didn't react at all. Like, let's get this over with. Oh well. Could be worse though. Could be worse. There once was a guy called Jeffrey Parker. He was a zoologist, so most of his small talk was probably fun. You know, he was used to studying biology. Oh, you're doing biology, yeah. Zoologist. Oh, animals, always interesting. Yeah. You're studying insects. All right, that sounds cool as well. And it's also, I think if you're a zoologist or if you're studying insects, it's kind of like this native idea of being a researcher, right? Like as a kid, you probably run around in the garden, snatching at grasshoppers and putting them in marmalade glasses and looking at them. And you know, it's probably how Charles Darwin started, or how Pavlov started as well. It's like this native idea of this innocent child exploring the world, growing up to be a great natural researcher. Well, he studied insect genitalia. Well, you know, if you would have told his mom while catching the grasshoppers, look, mommy, that grasshopper's penises, you're never going to go to the garden again. Granted, you're becoming an English teacher now. Yeah, well, we wouldn't. He had a lot of contributions to science. First of all, like, he did his job very well. He studied these insect sticks very carefully, and he published an entire book with really detailed depictions of all kinds of insect genitalia. Well, let's not make inferences about his personality here. It was for the greater good. It's knowledge that we now have, and we can decide what to do with it whatsoever. Just check. Yeah. And why am I telling you this? Not to creep you out. Because he wondered, like, oh yeah, I took a look at it as well. And come to think of it, this insect genitalia is crazy. It's nuts. It's all kinds of blades and weird shaped tools, question marks, lawnmowers. But it's like a Swiss Army blade they have down there. Like, what? Like nature? God damn it! Like. That's a good argument for an atheist. Like, God didn't create those insects. No way. Like, he didn't go to the shed and grab out tools and went like, you have this one, and you have this one, and you just have the lawnmower. Yeah, more things to creep you out. Oh yeah, and of course you wonder, okay, why on earth do they look like this? Why? Like, whoa, evolution, what happened there? And it's interesting what he found, because he actually stumbled across this notion of sperm competition. So if two males inseminate a female, there's obviously competition between their sperm. And in order to get rid of that, because obviously both have to mount the female, and that's a sequential order, they can't do it once. Maybe they can. They probably can't. I hope they can't. Yeah, so their genitalia actually evolved in order to remove that risk. So if somebody already mounted that female, then obviously the sperm's there. And so they got all these pedals and stuff to scoop it out and to get rid of the old sperm and, you know, to get their own in. And that's adaptive, of course. And then there's this pressure for weird genitalia. And the female's genitalia, don't even get me started on the female's genitalia, it's also just a mess. In insects. Again, why am I telling you this? Far off topic. Sperm competition, yeah. Oh yeah! Let me ruin your next sexual encounter for you. You're welcome. It also works in people and in humans. Think of it. It's quite kind of odd. Like, man, I guess I don't have to tell you this. Man have a penis and women have a vagina. And the penis has a certain shape, right? And most apes actually just have a stick. Like, it's just, you know, it's just in. That's what happens, right? But we have this weird kind of coronal ridge and these kinds of other things. And actually we found out that it's, if in hypothetical scenario there would be other sperm in a vagina, and you would have what normal people would call a good fuck, and what academics would call, copulatory behavior involving repeated and frequent thrusts. That's how you feel yourself in academia. Like, I'm not a pervert, I'm just... my future. Alright. So I had to talk there. Oh yeah, exactly. It works in people as well. Yeah, it's kind of odd. And the funny part is how they found this out. Because if you have this, it's a cool idea and all, and it sounds, I guess to most of you it also sounds reasonable. Like, okay, that might be possible with a lot of imagination. And okay, if you have this idea, how are you going to operationalize that? Doing an experimental manipulation there, inseminating semen in some participants and in some not. I'm not quite sure whether the ethical committee would approve. Permanent damage to life, traumatizing people. Not the best thing to do. So actually they went to the next sex store and got some dildos and plastic vaginas and just tried it in there. That's what's fun about being an academic, right? It's not the personal grooming that's neglected and you don't need to care about. You can come in trainers and with a beard, nobody gives a shit. And we can all even come to work with a dildo and play around with it. And not only not get a sexual harassment suit, but actually improve your career by writing a paper about it with a big ass impact factor. I mean, obviously, this research was glowing and it had a lot of citations, right? Like, crazy. These people got famous for this shit. And measuring like, the sperm surrogate that they put in there and everything. Yeah, they did that really professionally. And again, really, really discreet, like writing it all down. So the amount of sperm scooped out by the artificial phalluses was significantly higher if the coronal ridge was included in the phallus model or things kind of thing. It's making people professional, so that's a paper, that's what we know. Science! I'm never going to be able to tell my parents what my research is about. Never. When I was a kid, I used to play with a lot of Legos, so they expected me to become an architect. Also, interesting thing, like, next time you meet an architect, please ask them that, for me. Did you play with a lot of Legos when you were a kid? Oh, did you? Yeah, like, well, I didn't do that. I did do that, but I became a sex doctor, I guess. I'm not a doctor yet, I'm still in my master's actually. I don't even know what I'm going to do my PhD on. It's still in the future and I'm going to think about it, but I know for sure it's not going to be about insect dicks.